Good afternoon, welcome into my craft room. It's Friday yet again. Friday has rolled round, I think even faster than it did last week, but I'm very happy to be here crafting with you live. And it's a beautiful day here down in the south of England. Yesterday was not so beautiful, but today is gorgeous. We've got a clear blue sky, that beautiful golden autumn sunshine. The birds are all out on the feeders and it's generally a very, very nice day here. I haven't been out very much, it's a bit chilly, and I have been in my craft room, but it's lovely to look out of the windows and see the sunshine on the autumn leaves, I must say. So I hope wherever you're watching from, it is a nice day for you too. Let me know if you're here, let me know if the sound is okay and if the picture's okay. And Sandy's here. Hi Sandy. And Sandy's saying the sun is shining in Lincoln too. So I assume that means you can hear me loud and clear, which is good news. Let me just find you on my, find me even on my iPad, and I can hopefully keep an eye on the comments there. Brilliant. Nice that you could join us, Sandy. Are you crafting this afternoon? Are you catching up with jobs or are you doing something else? Thank you. Great. Good to know the sound on the picture. Oh, perfect. That makes a very nice change. I'm very happy to hear that. Okay, so this afternoon I'm going to be dealing with crafting, but dealing with those things that we all come up against, which is when things don't exactly go to plan. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but I'm just going to catch you up on a little bit of news before then. Belinda's here. Hi Belinda. Yeah, she says the sun's shining down the road. Yes, Belinda doesn't live very far from me, so if I've got sunshine, the chances are that Belinda has sunshine too. Sandy's been crafting her husband's Christmas card this morning and she's having a break now. Well, that's definitely allowed. Well done. I'm ashamed to say, but you probably won't be surprised to hear that I have not done anything about my husband's Christmas card yet. I have been busy crafting other things. So Sandy says hi to Belinda. Belinda and Sandy are both in my team, so they know each other, even though they don't live very close together. So always nice to have my team join me here. Right, news and notices then. I suppose the first thing to do is to remind you that Stampin' Up's last day that they recommend for ordering for Christmas delivery, or pre-Christmas delivery I should say, is December the 16th. However, I would definitely not leave it that long. They aren't guaranteeing it, they're suggesting it, and frankly, if you are wanting to order for delivery in time for Christmas, I would get your order in as soon as you can. My last order will be going in on the 9th of December. So if you would like an order, then I'm very happy to pop it in for you. And if you want it to go in my group order, which is where I can offer you reduced shipping because there's a whole lot of us ordering together, that will be the 9th of December, which I think is a week. Is that a week? Yeah, a week sooner than Stampin' Up are saying. If you want to order yourself, of course you aren't restricted to ordering on the 9th of December. You can order anytime you like on my website, and I've got my website address down on my desk. When I turn the camera down, you'll be able to see that. Okay, let me just make sure I've not missed any other comments, which I haven't. Okay. Again, when I turn the camera down in a minute, I'm just going to show you some pictures for the latest Stampin' Up kit, which is the Timeless Greeting Kit, which is a kit for cards with a bit of a more masculine feel, but actually I think the stamps are brilliant and will work for all kinds of people and occasions as well. Let me just lean across and show you something exciting. These arrived in my craft room this week, so I know that will be back to front, but I'm sure you can see that is the new mini catalogue and the new Celebration brochure. I'm not allowed to show you the insides of them yet, but they are very nice indeed. I have a shopping list which I will be ordering on December the 1st. So as demonstrators, we are allowed to order items about a month earlier than customers can, so that we can have a little play with them and show you some projects when it's time for you to order. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. As I've mentioned before, and if you get my newsletter, you'll know Celebration is only happening once next year. January and February 2023 is Celebration. So if you get any Christmas money, you might like to save it up. As always, if you spend £45 in one go during January and February, then you'll be able to choose an item from the Celebration brochure for free. And if your spend is £90, then there are some more items for you to choose from that are higher value items, or indeed you can choose 2 of the £45 spend rewards. So yes, Celebration will be here before we know it. There's some very nice things. So Belinda's catalogues haven't arrived yet. She guesses they're caught up in the postal strike. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Belinda. Yes, they probably are. Don't get me started on the postal strike. When your business is card making, it's not great to have a postal strike. So they may be trying to make their own jobs a lot better, but they're certainly making my job a heck of a lot harder. So I hope yours arrives soon, Belinda. And Mary is here. Hi, Mary. You are very welcome. She says hello to everybody. If you are on my mailing list for card classes, then I have emailed out the list of all the classes for next year. I've written them out all the way through to the end of December 2023. One of my customers managed to spot an error I had missed, so I've sent it out a second time, and my apologies for filling your inbox up with 2 emails when one would have done. I did check it twice. I waited till the next day and then I checked the list twice, but I still missed something. If you see anything else on there you think may be wrong, do let me know, because I make plenty of mistakes. My haul costs have gone up, depending on the session, by either 25% or 30% for next year, which is an enormous hike. I wasn't expecting anything like that much of an increase. I've been hoping to absorb the increases in costs elsewhere and keep my class prices the same, but unfortunately I've had to put prices up by £2 a place for next year, which is not something I wanted to do, but unfortunately I just couldn't absorb that much of a hike in haul hire costs. But I am really looking forward to you joining me again for classes next year. A reminder that if you would like to do the January card class or the January card class by post, I need to know by December the 9th. Again, I'll be mailing out. If you're on my classes mailing list, you'll get a reminder to book. But if you're not, then it's December the 9th is the last date. That allows me to get everything cut and prepared ready for the class before I go on my Christmas break. If you want to do January's Fancy Fold Cards class, then you've got an extra week to book for that. You've got until the 16th of December. Again, you'll get a reminder if you're on my card making mailing list, my class mailing list. If you're not, but you'd like to be, let me know. And I have a second mailing list where I mail out a weekly newsletter, which has got all the news and reminders in it. It's got a photograph of projects I make in my Friday live session. It's got links to that session on YouTube, information on any special offers, and so on and so forth, and anything else I think that you might like to know about. I usually slip in a little bit about what's happening in my life as well, so you can get to know me a little bit. So if you're not on my mailing list but would like to be, just drop me an email and let me know. So Belinda says the fact that she hasn't got a catalogue hasn't stopped her making a list, and Sandy says she's the same, and everyone's saying hello to Mary. So lovely. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera down. I will show you that some visuals for that new kit, and then I'm going to start talking about today's session. So bear with me while I do this. I've been getting a little bit better at doing it recently, so let's just see whether I can get that right. Okay, so just hit one wrong button. Let's hope I don't hit any more. Okay, I hope that we are there. Let me just fiddle with the stand. And take off the washi tape. I do my best to not get you seasick. And once my iPad catches up, I will be able to see what you can see. Ooh, it's all very dark, isn't it? That's better. That's much better. Okay, so we've got a lead to clip up. Gosh, there is a really, really long time lag today. It's about, I don't know what that was, about 12, 15 seconds between something actually happening and it appearing on my iPad. So let's hope that it doesn't take me too long to see things and show you things. Right, so that is straight. Again, I'll wait for everything to catch up so that you can see that straight. Okay, and I'm just going to fiddle a little bit with distances, see if I can improve that slightly, and then we'll get going. All right, so this is a little sheet for the Timeless Greetings kit. I'll pick it up because you can't see the pictures awfully well down there. So these are the photographs that Stampin' Up have given us, and if I move it, this is the stamp set. Now the stamp set is really nice. I don't think I've improved that at all, have I? Let's try moving it there. That's better. One day I will get this right. I've told you, haven't I, many times that I'm somebody who has to turn the map round when I'm following a map, and that's why I can never get this in the right place. So the stamp set here, the main images on it are a clock face and a map of most of the world. When you make up the cards, you've got components to stamp these into, but they will also work brilliantly stamped onto either punched or die cut circles for card making once you've used up the consumable things in the kit. And then the words are really nice. We've got thanks, I can always count on you, time to celebrate, you make the world a better place, and happy birthday. So I think that's a really nice stamp set. It comes with a mini ink pad as well, an entry-level block for your stamps, and absolutely everything you need, including adhesives, to make 8 cards. So that's lovely. That's available now. It's £20. The number is 161062. It's called the Timeless Greetings kit. Mine is on its way. It's supposed to be coming on Tuesday. I don't know if it will. I really hope it does, because I'm looking forward to getting started with that. Okay, so mistakes and things that you wish hadn't happened when you are card making. This happens to everybody, absolutely everybody, including me. You might say, especially me. And so I have gathered together the most common mistakes that I make and that I see happen in my classes, and I'm going to show you some ways around them. Now occasionally a project goes in the bin and even I can't save it, but most of the time I can save a project. So I thought it might be an interesting topic for today. You'll be able to tell me how many of these mistakes you've made. You might have made other mistakes and have a great solution, in which case do please share it, or you might want a solution, in which case ask and I will help if I possibly can. So here we go. So here is a little piece of stamped card, and it was all going beautifully until I stuck my finger in the green ink pad, and can you see I have a smudge just here. And it happened as I was sticking it on my mat. So I've got 2 layers of card here that I don't really want to get rid of. So I need to do something to kind of solve the problem. Now, rhinestones are often my friend. Often I can stick a rhinestone on a smudge and maybe add another couple, so I haven't just got one random rhinestone on there, and that will solve the problem because it's hidden the inky smudge. But this one, first of all, is quite big. It's also not really somewhere I would stick a rhinestone. If I pop a rhinestone on here, I think it's going to look a bit strange. So instead I thought, right, what can I do instead? I know, I'll put some ribbon. Now, if I put a bow down here, it's not really the right place again. But what I thought was I would be able to put some ribbon across the corner and then across the opposite top corner. And I thought, now that will work. That will look okay. But I haven't got any ribbon in any of these colours. However, I have got my white seam binding ribbon. You've probably seen me colour this before. The white ribbon is fantastic. Have a reel of white ribbon in your stash always, because then you can colour it. I'm using a Stampin' Blends marker here, and I've picked one of the mint macaron ones. This is dark mint macaron because the green on here is mint macaron. But you can also use the Stampin' Right markers. Those are the water-based markers. You can pick up some ink from your ink pad on a dauber and daub it onto the ribbon. You can even mix some re-inker with some water in a jam jar and immerse your ribbon in that for a little while. Pull it out and let it dry, and that will colour your ribbon. So now I have some ribbon that is going to work perfectly with my card. Now, if I knew I was going to use ribbon, of course, I'd have picked colours where I had coordinating ribbon. But given that this is something that I wasn't planning on doing, I do now at least have some coordinating ribbon. So I'm going to cut a piece of this for the bottom and another one for the top. Belinda says she has many reels of this ribbon in her stash. Yeah, it is my favourite ribbon. It's a really nice width. It's very soft. It ties beautifully. And it colours really nicely too. And I'm going to cough, excuse me. So I always attach ribbon with mini glue dots because it just holds the ribbon without budging. I don't have to wait for the glue to dry, and because they're not wet, they don't soak through the ribbon to the front. So I've put a mini glue dot on each side, each end I should say. And let me see if I can pick this up and show you a little bit more clearly. So I'm just going to move this so that I'm hiding the smudge and the ribbon is kind of equal from the bottom corner up and the bottom corner across. So that's my first piece of ribbon on there. And then I'm going to do exactly the same with the other one up here, just to make it look like actually I'd intended all along putting ribbon on my corners. So Belinda says this ribbon ties the double and triple bows really nicely. Indeed it does, Belinda. It's just beautiful ribbon. I hope they never discontinue it. Okay, so now I'm just going to lay this piece across here in a similar way to the other corner and press those ends on the back so my ends are nice and firmly held on the back. And there is my saved piece of stamped card, and that's all ready now to go on a card base. Thank goodness for that. That doesn't need to go in the bin. All right, so what next? Well, this is a similar one. My inky finger struck again, and I've got another inky smudge here. So once again, I could pop a rhinestone on that and then perhaps scatter another couple around. That would definitely work. However, if you're doing something like flowers in particular, I think a bow works really nicely. So I've used that same seam binding ribbon here. This time I've coloured it So Saffron to match the So Saffron card and ink I've used. And I've tied one of those double looped bows that Belinda was talking about. You've seen me tie those here before. And so I'm going to pop this over the top. Now, if I put the knot of my bow on where that inky smudge is, my kind of bow doesn't really want to go there, does it? It wants to go here where the flowers are. So this is where glue dots are once again your friend, because I can use a glue dot strategically placed to make sure that a loop of my ribbon covers over that inky smudge. So first of all, I'm going to pick a glue dot up from the backing paper using my scissors and just stick it onto that smudge. And then I'm going to put another glue dot or two on the back of my ribbon bow. So I'm going to put the knot of the ribbon in the middle of the stem, which is where I want it. And then I'm just going to press down one of the loops of this bow onto that glue dot that was on the smudge. And now that bow loop is going to stay exactly where I want it and cover over that inky smudge permanently. So once again, that project is saved. It doesn't need to go in the bin. Hooray. And Katie's here. Hi Katie, thank you for joining us this afternoon. She says hello to everyone, and Sandy and Belinda say hi Katie. All right, so what happens if what you've done is just too much for a bit of ribbon or a bow, or is in completely the wrong place? So So on this one, I've stamped and I've got ink on my block. This is a photopolymer stamp. And the corner of the block with some extra ink on it from the ink pad has just caught the edge there. Now when you stamp, if you make sure you stamp straight down and then lift the stamp straight up without any kind of rocking or movement of the block, you should find that this doesn't happen to you, but it does happen sometimes. So what can we do about that? Well, this is where a die cut might be a useful thing for you. So I've die cut some butterflies here, just from a little tiny scrap of the metallic specialty paper I had. I had a little strip like that. So I've die cut 4 butterflies, so I've got a few to play around with. Using the Brilliant Wings dies. So you've got a whole selection of butterflies in here. They do coordinate with the stamp, so you can cut out the stamped images, but you've also got all these individual butterflies here, plus these 2 little butterflies here. So you've got lacy butterflies and you've got solid butterflies. So I thought I would just try those here and we will see which ones are going to work the best. So I've got that horrible smudge there. So I do love these lacy ones, but I'm wondering whether the ink is going to show through their bodies. I could get away with it, but you can see the green ink through. I don't know if that's actually going to show up on the camera or not. Let's wait and catch up. I don't think you can see that, but I can see that this smudge is actually bigger than the area covered up by my butterfly body. So instead, I think I'm going to use the solid ones. So that one actually covers up that smudge really nicely. And then if I put the other one on as well, I think it looks a lot more intentional. Belinda says she loves the butterflies. She had them out only this morning. So one of Katie's suggestions is she often stamps greetings onto labels and sticks them over ink spots if they're not suitable for butterflies, gems, etc. That's a great trick. Katie, thank you very much for sharing that one. So yeah, we have lots of, you can just cut a strip of card or you can punch a label, or we've got lots of dies that cut labels. And very often your smudge will be somewhere where you can pop a label with a greeting on it. And actually you end up just making your card or whatever your project is even better. So there we are. So that has saved that one. That paper is fabulous. It's really sparkly. Okay, so here is my next problem. Okay, anybody spot what the problem is here? Let me show you. I've made a left-handed card. Obviously I want my fold on the left, but I picked up my card base in a hurry. I stuck all my layers and decoration down and then realized too late that actually it's opening back to front. Now I have seen people write inside these, I made this card specially for you, and give it to a left-handed friend. So that is certainly one way around it. But another way around it is to actually cut off this panel here and then use it on a new card base. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll pull out my trimmer, open it up. So first of all, I'm going to cut off the back of my card base, because that piece is big enough to use as a layer on something else. So at least that's not wasted. And then I'm going to cut round my darker matting layer here and leave a little border. You can cut right to the edge, but it can be tricky to do that. The other thing you can do is, particularly if you've only just glued this, is you can peel off those front layers and just glue them to another card. But it is easy to buckle everything when you're doing that, or end up with little kind of card stretch marks in the corners. So instead I'm going to cut this off, and I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch or so around that layer, and I'm just going to use my trimmer and line up my card in the same place on my trimmer using this darker, it's soft succulent matting layer to measure with. So I'm using one of the little ridges on my trimmer, and I'll do that first of all. Right, so that's a little bit too wide, so let's try instead, I'm going to put the edge of my card base here, along the right hand side of my cutting track, just on the edge of that dark area, because I do want to cut off some of that pale green but not all of it. And then I'm going to try and cut my other ones to match, so you can find a reference point on your trimmer. You may be able to measure it depending on how straight your layering is, or you may have to eyeball it, but you're just aiming to leave a little bit of a layer, a little bit of a layer, a little bit of a border of the colour of your card base. And now I've done this, I did one of those edges a second time just to get everything even. I will lift this up and show you once I've got rid of the debris. There we are. So I'm hoping you can see that I have left a pale green edge all the way around this darker green layer. I'm not sure it's showing very well. Let's pop it on here and see if that shows up a little bit better with that dark matte. Yeah, that's better, I think. So rather than cut up to the edge of my darker green, I've actually left a little border of the original card base. That will add a feature when I put it down here. It will look like I've added an extra layer. It also makes it much easier to have cut that piece off the original card base neatly. So now I've got my new card base. I'm going to check very carefully where the fold is and make sure I put this in the right place, and then just glue it down. And then I have saved my card that I put quite a lot of work into. There we are. And nobody is ever going to know that is not how you intended it to be. Just going to drink some of my tea. I can feel my throat going dry. All right, so that's another one we've saved. So I have another card here with a smudge on it down the bottom. I didn't want to restamp it. I've done some two-step stamping on this. So what can I do? Well, this particular stamp set, and we have lots of stamp sets that have these in, has got a spatter stamp. So depending on how big your smudge is and where it is, you can very often cover over the smudge with a spatter stamp. And I'm just going to pop my foam mat underneath because this is a photopolymer stamp. So I'm going to look at my image, and I've got some quite big spots there, and those are the ones that I'm going to lay over the top of that smudge because they will do the best job of disguising it. And because this is a photopolymer stamp, I can see really easily where my smudge is. And then, so it doesn't look too weird, I'm just going to add some more spattering. There we are. So I could play around with that a little bit more, but I'm not going to. But that has disguised pretty well that smudge just there. It's not perfect, but it could well be better than having to redo my two-step stamping. And I actually don't think anybody will know that that wasn't how I'd planned it unless they happen to have seen this video. in which case they will know. Okay, just clear a little bit of the debris. All right, so this next one, I'm going to kind of make the mistake and then show you how you can fix it. This is to do with Stampin Dimensionals. They are wonderful, these little foam pads. I love the way they add height to my project and texture and interest, but sometimes things don't go quite right when I use them. So I'm just going to put 4 on here just for the sake of speed of showing you a technique. I would use more than that if I was actually making a card. So let's say I put this down and it goes crooked. So I want it like that, but actually I haven't stuck that down very well and it's gone crooked. If you do it immediately, sometimes you can actually just peel these off. And I think that probably would work here, but you can also buckle your label. However, another way of dealing with it is to take your scissors and slide them flat underneath the label. And I don't suppose for a minute I can actually show you this. I'll just give it a go, but I don't think it's going to show. But I'm actually going to snip. No, I can't get it on camera, but I'm going to snip through that dimensional. So now let's see if I can show you. So that's just that one. So I've snipped that through almost halfway. And I'm going to go around and do the others. So my scissors are flat, they're pretty much laying on the table. And then I just snip through that dimensional. There we are. So I've now got half dimensionals everywhere, and if I roll that dimensional with my finger, it will roll off the card, the adhesive will roll off, and it doesn't pull the card, leaves it completely clean. Now if you did this 3 weeks ago, it will probably not work. If you stuck your thing down and now you're coming to it and thinking, actually that's not right, I'd like to move it, because the adhesive on your dimensionals will really have set up firmly. But if you've done it quite recently, like I just did, that will come off and that is completely immaculate, like a clean piece of card. Take the pieces off here as well, exactly the same way. So I'm pushing my finger along with some pressure, just flat. And the residue of that dimensional just balls up on here and rolls off the card. Now that one has torn it slightly, if you can see just here, but it's not enough to cause a problem. It's on the back of my label, it's not going to show. I haven't got to die cut another label and stamp it again. That will be fine. And particularly if you've put a lot of work into a card, I mean, I've just got a piece of card here to stick this on, but if you've created a beautiful card with stamping or inky techniques or what have you, and then your label goes down in the wrong place, it's a really useful tip to be able to get all those dimensionals off and completely start again. So now I can pop new dimensionals on there and stick it down exactly where I wanted it. Oh, and Belinda, that's a good tip, Belinda. Yep, so let's go back to this one where I put it onto the card base with a fold on the wrong side, and I trimmed it off with the little light border around. And Belinda's saying that she might put it onto a darker card base because she now has an extra light matting layer on there. Yeah, great idea, Belinda. That would look really nice too. And Soraya is here. Hi, Soraya. Ages and ages and ages since I've seen you. Thank you for joining us. Okay. So this technique you've probably all used, and if you've been to my classes you have certainly heard me mention it. So I'm going to stamp. Okay, so this is just a happy birthday stamp. Okay, there's some ugly stamping for you. Now, I know you know that if you stamp straight down and lift it straight up, it doesn't matter how much ink you've got on the excess rubber around your stamp, you will not get these nasty inky marks appearing. However, I know it happens. Sometimes I do it, and I've certainly seen it happen a lot in classes. So what can you do? Well, you use something called the emergency side. Every piece of card has two sides to it. So you can just turn it over and stamp again on the emergency side. And this time, if I stamp straight down and straight up, I've got perfect stamping. And this works almost every single time. The only time you may find it doesn't work is if you have let's say stamped something and coloured it in with stamping blends, and then you stamp something else, which is where you make your error. When you turn it over, you will find that your stamping blends have soaked through. Let me just show you how that happens. I've got a stamping blends marker here. So if I'd stamped and coloured something on here and then coloured in with stamping blends, you can see that the ink and stamping blends comes through. So I wouldn't then be able to use the emergency side. The other time when it may not work for you is if you've stamped this in a really, really dark colour on pale card like this basic white. You might find that when you turn it over, it shows through so clearly that you can't overstamp it. But honestly, that has hardly ever happened. You can almost always turn your card over and stamp on the emergency side. So that is a really useful thing to remember, that your card has two sides. Turn it over and nobody will be any the wiser. Something else that I see in classes is somebody will make their card, it's beautiful, then they'll stick their layer for the insert into the card, and then they'll stamp on it and perhaps make a mistake. Now, I always recommend that you stamp your card and then you glue it in, because if you glue your card in and then stamp and make a mistake, that's your beautiful card. However, there is a way around it. All you need is another piece of card the same size. Let's stamp that again. We'll stamp it a little bit more carefully this time and make sure we don't rock the stamp, and then we won't get that halo effect around it. And then all I'm going to do is glue this piece of card on top, and as long as I have measured and cut these carefully, the new piece of card will be exactly the same size as the old one, and you would really have to be very eagle-eyed to spot that there were two layers of card on the insert. So I am going to put this on here really carefully and make sure that my edges and corners match up perfectly. There we are. So that is good as new. And you honestly cannot see that there is another piece of card underneath that. So that will be going in my thank you cards box. And that is all the errors that I have come up with. Now, there may well be other things you can think of, and if there are, do let me know. Have you found a really good solution to something? Is there something that you did the other day and you couldn't quite work out how to fix it? try and bring in all the bits and pieces that you've seen today. So what did I have here? Eight possible solutions. So none of these projects had to go in the bin. This one had an inky smudge somewhere that I couldn't put a rhinestone or a butterfly or anything else. However, I could lay some ribbon across it, put some ribbon across the opposite corner just to make it look intentional, and then that one was fixed. This one, I had an inky smudge here, and I could have perhaps put a rhinestone on it, but it was quite a big smudge. So instead, as it was flowers, I do think a little bow looks really nice on a floral kind of sprig like that. And I made sure to put a glue dot down on the actual inky smudge, and then to push the bow down onto that glue dot just to make absolutely sure the bow didn't shift and show my mistake. So that's ready to go on a card base now as well. With this one, I caught the edge of my block. It was inky, and it made quite a big inky smudge up here. It was too big for a rhinestone. I didn't really want to put ribbon there. Instead, I've got a die cut butterfly. Now a punched shape would work really well as well. And then I put another one down here just to balance things out and make it look more intentional. On this one, I've got a smudge down here. And I actually used an ink spatter stamp to very deliberately place the spatter image over the top of my smudge, and then I added some more just to balance it out. On this one, I showed you how to remove some dimensionals where something had gone down crooked, and then you can straighten everything up and reapply it. On this one, I put the card with the fold on the wrong side, so I trimmed off the back of the card base. That can be used as another layer, and then I trimmed around my card front and left a small border, and then just added it to a new card base. And Belinda made the point that I could even have changed my card base colour to add more interest and make it a more exciting card there. I've got a couple of really good suggestions come up as well from you guys, which I'm going to read you in just a minute. This one, I used the emergency side, so I didn't stamp that very well. I turned it over and stamped it beautifully there. I did just show you that if you've been colouring with stamping blends, you probably won't unfortunately be able to use the emergency side. You might have to come up with or use one of the other solutions instead. On this one, I just made a new insert that was cut exactly the same size as the old one and stuck it over the top. And a reminder to always do your stamping before you glue anything together, and then if you have a problem you can fix it before your insert or your layer or whatever it is glued into your project. So I've just seen a couple of great solutions come up. So Belinda says sometimes it's possible to fussy cut around the sentiment if you've got the edge of the stamp around it. Yes, it absolutely is, Belinda, and I'm just looking to, I don't think I've got one separately, but yeah, absolutely this one. Let's get my scissors. So I could instead have come in like this. And I could have cut this off and used this on a new insert piece. Or indeed, if it had been on the front of my card, I could have stamped this on a label or some other kind of shape and glued it over the top. There we are. So that would now be completely usable. Colours aren't perfect, but I could add that to something like that. And there's another one here from Belinda. The card where I did the splatters, which is this one. Would you have considered cutting out the image to make another part? Yeah, great solution. So yes, absolutely. There are dies that go with this, but even if I didn't have the dies, I could cut them out, could cut around that shape, avoiding my nasty inky smudge, and then I could use that element on a new layer. This one is slightly complicated by the fact that, have I got the stamp set handy? Yes, down here. it wouldn't, I could cut this one out by hand. I wouldn't be able to use the die on this because I'd added that leaf and this bud to the stem to make a larger flower, but I absolutely could get my scissors in there, cut round that, and then add it to a new panel. So yes, that's another great idea. There are so many fixes when something goes wrong, so I do encourage you to not just throw everything in the bin and stamp your feet, but there is often a creative solution, and sometimes what you come up with actually looks better than the original. This one, for instance, I do really like that with the ribbon across the corners. I'm not sure that's something I've ever done that I can think of in quite that same way, but I do think that looks really pretty. So you never know what things are going to look like. That is the end of my mistakes and solving them session. So I'm just going to move the camera back up and tell you about next week. So let's just change this round. There we go. So that should, I hope, mean I'm up the right way. There we are. Yeah, I'm there. Okay, release that cable a bit so I've got some room to move. Okay, so I will be here again next Friday at 2 o'clock. Next week I'm going to do quick Christmas cards. I was actually going to do something else next week and do quick Christmas cards the week after, but with the postal strikes, I think we're all going to be trying to send our cards a lot sooner, aren't we? And if you've suddenly thought, oh my goodness, am I going to get my cards posted on time, then that might be the session for you. So I'm going to go through making some very, very quick but still nice Christmas cards and hopefully give you some ideas. So if you've still got a stack to make, you can get on and make those and get them in the post in good time. And then the week after that, I'm going to be doing quick Christmas gifts. It was one of my most watched videos this time last year. So I've come up with some new ideas and I'll be doing that the week after. But next week it's quick Christmas cards. Let me just see if there's any other questions or comments from people. So you've got time to type something in if you have one. Oh, it's only tea, but it went down the wrong way. Okay, I don't think there's anything else coming up. So whatever you're doing this weekend, I hope you have a really lovely time. I will look forward to seeing you same time, same place next week. Thank you for joining me. If you've enjoyed this and you can like it and share it, that would be super helpful. If you're watching the replay on YouTube, then subscribing to my channel is always really helpful for me. And tell your friends. You can also like the videos there as well, and that helps to get them shown to other people who might not know about me but might enjoy my content. So thank you very much for doing that in advance. I will look forward to seeing you again next week. And until then, have a great weekend. Thank you for joining in with your tips as well. Some great suggestions there. Bye-bye.